everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week. This is going to be the astro weather for September 4th through the 11th. So those of you guys who are new to my channel, welcome. I am a Western astrologer with an emphasis on what I see with tarot, working with the Sabian symbols, as well as clairvoyant kind of visions and talking about my intuitive hits on what's going on with the cosmos. So if you are new, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up, say hello, drop a comment, let us know where you're watching from. To those of you guys who are members and also current subscribers, welcome back. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm excited to do a little bit of a deep dive actually and talk about Venus changing signs. So if you saw the title for this video, Venus entering into Virgo. But we will be talking about the transits throughout the week, but I'm going to put a special emphasis on that this week. Let's go ahead and get into it, and we'll start talking about day by day. We're going to start here first with Sunday the 4th. This is going to be Mars in Gemini. Let me grab my little pen. A lot of you guys said that you like the marker, so we're going to stick with the marker. Mars in Gemini has been in Gemini now for a little while. Mars is entering into shadow. So if you guys have seen my Mars in Gemini video, or if you saw my Pisces full moon video, I talked about how from here on out, there can be some some Mars in Gemini shadow. Now, we may not really start feeling it actually until we see like squares to Neptune. It depends on how sensitive you are. So if you are like a Mars ruled chart like Aries or Scorpio, you might see the effect of this a little bit more strongly than others. But Mars is going to be hanging out in Gemini clear until the beginning of 2023. Because it is hitting 8 degrees, this is the shadow. So when a planet retrogrades, it starts to come into the period that it will retrograde back to. So we'll actually see it station right around this degree in early 2022. I believe it's, 2023. I believe it's going to be like the end of February, beginning of March. I'll have to double check these dates, but just know that whatever you are working towards, whatever you are putting more energy or motivation into, look at where Gemini is in your chart, likely you're going to be working this out over a period of time, or there's going to be a lot more action in this part of your life for the next couple of months. And there might be a need to return to certain ideas, conversations, contracts, negotiations. We might need to rework travel, what we think, right? Because it is Mars in a mercurial sign. This same day, Venus is going to enter into Virgo. Now, it's not going to be for a couple hours later, but just know that it's going to be later in the PM hours on September the 4th. Now, why am I bringing this up? You know, I'm getting into the habit of talking more about when planets change signs. I also feel like because the North Node is ruled by Venus, it's really important for us to be paying attention while Venus goes in and out of different signs. Now, the last couple of months, we've seen Venus move through Taurus, came into conjunction with Uranus, totally new, needing more freedom, needing to express herself differently. Then we watched Venus go through the sign of Gemini, where we were turned on by communication, sharing of ideas. It was much more airy and there was like a lot more freedom. Venus moved then through the sign of Cancer, which was all about thinking about the past, reminiscing, stuff in relations to our home, our safe space, our families, and our domestic zone. And recently, the last several weeks, we have seen Venus moving through the sign of Leo. Loud, proud, very solar, because Leo is ruled by the sun. So we've seen just like a lot more pizzazz and also some drama. We've seen some drama because Venus has come into squares with the North Node and Uranus in Taurus, and some oppositions with Saturn. I've thought that September, even in spite of of the Mercury retrograde, September has been a nice little slice where we have a little bit more peace. Because we're not seeing so many hard angles and aspects between Venus or Mars. Actually, we are going to be seeing that they are going to be quite harmonious for the most part, even in spite of some Venus-Mars squares, but that's just going to be sexy. We don't need to worry about that. But what am I getting at? Well, the North Node is where we want to go, right? North Node in Taurus, pleasure, security, food, the senses, what tastes good, feels good, smells good. So we want to pay attention to what's going on with Venus. We're going to really feel when Venus changes signs. Now, the South Node, which is in Scorpio, which is moving away from pain, fear, issues with insecurities, abandonment, loss, betrayal, right? All the fun Scorpio topics. We look at Mars or we look at Pluto, right? Well, Mars is going to spend months on end in Gemini. So you guys aren't going to get too many Mars reports from me until we see Mars trine Saturn, Mars square Neptune. But even in the midst of that, Mars will retrograde. So it's like not a lot is going to change with Mars. And because Mars has to go through his retrograde, work out some of the kinks, trine Saturn again, and then go direct, we have some work to do in the Gemini area of our charts. Venus is going to be moving much more quickly. She's also going to experience a lot more freedom because she's going to be moving finally through Virgo and then into Libra, where she is quite comfortable because she is associated both with Taurus and Libra. So we're going to talk a little bit about Venus. Venus in Virgo, what it means for this transit for each of the 12 signs. I'm going to tell you about where Venus is moving through your chart and bringing you a little bit of extra TLC, a little bit of love. So, you know, Venus changing signs, I think we're going to feel it because it's shifting from a feisty, kind of fiery solar sign to a mutable earth sign. So we know that Virgo is an earth sign, the second of 3 of the earth family. Virgo is changeable, right? It's flexible, mutable, and it's traditionally ruled by Mercury. Now, if you guys saw my previous videos where I was talking about the Mercury retrograde and just how much Mercury energy we're really coming into, you know that there's like a whole host of planets that are still somehow corresponding in some way to Virgo, right? Now, like I said, Virgo season is still, you know, we're still in the thick of it. We've got another, you know, week or so that we're going to be experiencing the sun in Virgo. But when Venus joins the bunch, you know, having the sun and Venus, it's really shifting the focus more so into relationships and what we're cleaning up, right? Now, traditionally, Virgo season was seen as the season of going and tending to the crops. There was a lot of labor, right? We had the earth maidens and the gardeners and everybody going out that were pulling the crops for harvest and really taking a look at what they had been working hard and growing all season long. So this is the season, just Virgo season naturally at the end of summer, right? Because Venus never strays more than about 2 signs from the sun. When Venus enters Virgo, it's this whole kind of like, all right, getting back in gear, getting ready to go back to school, getting ready to adapt back to like a regular work routine. But this is also in our lives where we're separating the wheat from the shaft. The wheat from the chaff. So it's more, not in a biblical sense, it's more relating to like Ceres and her sickle, right? So when we think about going through the fields and cutting everything and being able to bring in the harvest, it's also saying like where we're sorting and sifting through what we need and what we don't need, what's healthy for us and what isn't, what works and what isn't working. And with all of these planets that are kind of moving through some mercurial signs, we're going to be thinking long and hard about like communication and how we can communicate more efficiently, right? That's a lot of what the Mercury retrograde is going to be about as well. But Venus is about opening. So as soon as Venus, it'll be on the 4th, but as soon as Venus moves, let me change this to, there we go, Virgo, it's going to be playing a role in the Mercury retrograde. So here's why. Planets, as they go through signs, are hosted by that sign. So I want you to think of like the host being similar to their home or their house, right? So Venus deals with opening up, bringing together, you know, harmony, finding peace. Sometimes it can be about unifying things that are different, but they can come together and have a conversation or have a romance or have a partnership. So she wants to bring things together. But we've also got Mercury, which is in a Venus sign, Okay, so we've got a mutual reception between the two here. And Mercury is getting ready to station, getting ready to go retrograde. So there's something about this Mercury retrograde that's very much also tied to the Venus in Virgo transit. 12th houses to Mercury in Libra. So it tells me like where we're stepping back, where we're resting, where we're retreating. There can also be a sense with Venus 12th house to the sun of like what's closing out, what's phasing out sometimes. In our health, right, Virgo, in our schedules, in our relationships. And we'll see later at the end of September, if you guys have seen my other videos, I talk about how Venus will actually come into conjunction with Mercury retrograde right when Mercury's dropping back into Virgo, and we'll realize, oh my goodness, you know, what this Mercury retrograde was about. It's about really cleaning up our habits, cleaning up our schedule, cleaning up our daily routine, so we can like really show up much more fully in our relationships, right? I'm gonna keep using that word because we're coming into Mercury retrograde in Libra. So Venus traditionally, though, you know, we see associated with Taurus, and that's more the my pleasure, my food, my money, my security, my self-esteem. And then Libra, which is the relationship, what we build together, how we come together, what we enjoy together. It's dates, it's marriage, it's partnerships, it's harmony. To see Venus moving through Virgo, you know, in traditional astrology, we see this as Virgo, Venus being in fall. So, you know, Venus is not entirely too happy being there. Virgo and Venus, Venus in Virgo, excuse me, getting tongue-tied. Venus in Virgo is very mercurial, right? Because Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And being that it's mutable, you know, you're going to hear some astrologers that are going to say, well, you know, Venus is too critical here, or she's too picky, or there can be a side of her not being totally pleased and being very, very critical or selective about preferences, whether that's what she likes to wear, what she's eating, what tastes good, who she's dating. And there is some truth to that, right? There is some truth to that. Those of you guys who have a natal Venus in Virgo, or maybe you have a 6th house Venus, you can kind of relate to that. But I think really the debilitation is more so connected to the fact that Venus in Virgo has less luxuries, has less needs. There is a sense of simplifying and really kind of, like I said, cutting the wheat from the shaft and clearing everything out and kind of going, make it natural, you know, get down to basics, really kind of clear out anything that isn't organic, isn't necessary, isn't going to be solid, because it is it's in an earth sign. So you may feel like as Venus goes through Virgo, there is a much more critical energy in the air, or that we're having to work twice as hard when it comes to our finances, or twice as hard in order to see perfection or to enjoy something. You know, that piece of candy may not quite hit as well. Those relationships that were just feeling really kind of like above and beyond maybe the last couple of months, we might kind of see things kind of trickle a little bit and slow down, and we might start to kind of look at our relationships with a new set of like fresh eyes, and we're analyzing things very differently. And Venus in Virgo natives, there can be this tendency in relationships of feeling like there is a need to choose between you know, servitude and giving to others and sacrifice, or, you know, having luxuries, right? So it's like, you know, I spend my time with my loved ones, or do I focus on working and being able to kind of bring in what I have? Virgo's 6th house energy is associated with like accidents, mishaps, like delays. So having Venus just go through this sign, we can see more kind of issues in the workspace, in our health, but also in our relationships in general. Now, both the Sun and Venus are here, like I said, and we've got Mercury that is in Libra. And I haven't used the term mutual receptions too much in some of my lives, but I'm going to explain it for you guys right now. So this is when you have a planet, two planets that are kind of in each other's ruling sign, right? So Venus in a mercurial sign, Mercury in a Venusian sign. Even though we don't see a sextile, we don't see any angles. I guess some would argue this is a semi-sextile, but I don't really look at those too closely. Mutual reception. They're both having a conversation with one another, even though just with you know, looking at it with your eyes, there's no general aspect. So Mercury in Libra is saying to Venus in Virgo, well, what do you need me to rethink, right? Mercury is getting ready to turn retrograde. What do you need me to rethink? What do you need me to reconsider? You know, what isn't working? What is not pleasing you? What's wrong about the outfit? What needs to be tweaked about the decor? Because Venus does deal with art and anything in relation to self-expression, not just relationships. It can also be about the co-working space or anything in regards to co-workers, offices, and things like that. So these two having this conversation is going to have the theme for the week be like Venus acting in a very mercurial way. And this is breaking things down, being skeptical, needing to fix something, maybe needing to clean something up, needing to work on something. And it's also like synthesizing information, right? Because that's what Mercury does. Strong Mercury placements, they want to break everything apart. They want to understand what makes it tick and what works and how to put it back together. It wants to analyze a sequence or like look at patterns. So these two together, you're going to see is like a wonderful opportunity for people to start really kind of looking at relationships and going like, why do I choose these type of people? Or why do I behave this way? Or, you know, where is the crisis or the issue kind of coming from? Great time, really, I would say all of Virgo season with some of the trines that we're going to see to the North Node Uranus. But because of this transit, to really start thinking about, you know, who is in our corner? Who are we partnering with? And not just in a relationship sense, but who are we working for? Who stands by our side and when things get difficult? Do we have good counselors? Do we have good mentors? You know, do we have good astrologers? You know, Libra, the 7th house, can be about astrologers. So a lot of people can be like reevaluating who it is that they need to kind of check in with and reconnect with as they better kind of plan where they're going for the future, right? Now, Venus also is going to have much more of an emphasis on skills right now and rationalizing things. She's going to be busy because Virgo is busy. It likes to move around, and it's going to be perfecting something. And as I've said before, these are on a collision course for coming together right around the 26th of September when Mercury turns retrograde. It's closer to the 25th and the 26th. Mercury will turn retrograde, drop back down into Virgo, into Virgo, and come into conjunction with Venus here, right around the new moon in Libra. So why am I bringing this up? Because somehow this Venus transit is really building towards this moment where there will be a trine to Pluto and we're going to become aware of a pattern that we have, right? We're going to be able to realize like, there is the issue, you know, I've got the solution. And it can be that we're having issues in relationships because we're holding ourselves to such high standards. We're so critical of ourselves. We can be very hard on ourselves. And I've noticed just with Virgo season in general, it's like there can be a tendency to just be a little bit more challenged when it comes to being pleased. You know, what usually tastes good or what usually looks good. We're like, looking at it with a much more critical eye, and we want to kind of tweak things. So, you know, where we are being really hard on ourselves, I think Libra season can actually show us where that holding ourselves to such a high standard and having such high expectations for ourselves. And I'm talking about more in a Venus way. This is how we look, the money we make, how our hair sits. You know, these are some much more kind of appearance related things. And we're doubting ourselves, or we're not being kind to ourselves, or we're not practicing self-love, or we're not getting down to the bare bones and the bare essentials in relationships. this Mercury retrograde is where we kind of take the mask off, right? And we start to take off all of the layers and all of the aesthetic. And when we don't have all of the things, when we don't feel like we look the way that we would ideally like to look, or when we're not wearing all of the jewelry, the makeup, when we don't have to keep up with appearances and we strip all of that away, do we have a solid relationship? Do we have a true core I would say mutual admiration for one another? And that's really the question that I have looking at some of these squares, between the squares that are also happening to Mars, which is also in a mercurial sign. So a lot of this you guys aren't going to see for a couple of weeks, but I'm just looking at this starting to set up, going like, okay, this is the season where we start to see what relationships are really made of. When our health changes, when we lose our job, when we are going through huge aesthetic changes, or weight fluctuations or changes in our appearance, and we're starting to possibly kind of feel a little insecure, and relationships are here. Do people stay with us and choose to keep building on that relationship, or do we start to see things kind of falter and break down because we're changing and transforming either how we look or how we relate to other people? So you're going to notice lots of change all the way up until this collision course. I think of Venus in Virgo also being about where are we giving too much, right? Where are we sacrificing too much? And the 6th and the 12th house can easily be houses where we lose ourselves, because these are houses where it's very introspective. The 6th house being like, is it clean enough? Have I produced enough? What do I need to kind of fix and get together? Or where can I do more? It's your to-do list, And the 12th house deals more with the subconscious. It's hiding away, watching TV, sleeping in, and checking out from the world. So as we're having placements going through here, just traditionally, it's going to be in a different place for everybody. There is a tendency to sometimes lose ourselves. And Venus deals with pleasure. So where are we losing ourselves in pleasure? Where are we showing up in that relationship because it's physically really good, but we know it's like soul crushing, right? Where are we showing up and doing the work and making sure that we're getting the paycheck, but it may not necessarily actually be our purpose, or it may not actually be something that is helping or assisting people in the way that we would actually like to. Just some food for thought, And also in the midst of what's getting ready to be a retrograde is, what from the past needs working out versus what doors do we close? And where do we put an end to old habits? And where is it necessary to kind of wrap these habits up to also get the mind on board, right? Because Mars in Gemini is very mercurial energy. It's the actions that we take and how we communicate. Venus in Virgo, very mercurial. It's almost like when somebody very critical walks into the relationship and starts saying, this is wrong and this could be better, the passion can kind of leave. So we're going to notice as the weeks progress through September, as Venus and Mars square each other, there is some tension, there is some friction, because Venus is a little insecure in Virgo and she's not entirely sure. She just knows she wants to make something perfect. And Mars in Gemini can have a tendency to just blurt something out, and then we become aware through the retrograde, whoa, is that really how, my significant other thinks, or is that really how people perceive me? And there is kind of like this mercurial circus that's going to be going on of trying to sort and sift through actions and also feelings, and whether or not we're on the same page as other people, and if these relationships are worth the sacrifices that we're making to be able to make them work, right? So you want to think about, where are you giving too much? That's going to be the biggest thing here, and because of that rulership of the North Node with Venus, down the road, we will see Venus start coming into a trine with the North Node and with Uranus. So this will be more so next week, but we're going to start seeing that build right around like the 13th through the 19th. And I have a feeling that what we see, what we've shifted, what we've changed, what we've reworked, where we have kind of reassessed and made changes in our schedule or in our health, or where we're choosing to kind of open up and give our time, our energy to, it's really allowing us to come into what will be that new moon in Libra. And I have thought for some time, it has nothing to do with the equinox. It's more to do with that new moon in opposition to Jupiter. That's like, okay, we're going to set, this new balance in action. I have figured out what I need, and I have figured out, what I'm willing to give. And now we can kind of rebalance the scales and find that in relationships, the only way to have a healthy relationship is to ensure that both parties are being true to themselves. With the oppositions to Jupiter, it's what we're learning about ourselves and our own individual beliefs and how we can kind of work some of that out and set new intentions when it comes to being able to relate differently. But likely Venus is going to have to really kind of come to terms at some point at the end of the month with Mercury and trine Pluto and say, this is the thing I haven't been talking about, or this is the thing that I feel like isn't working for me, or this is disorganized, or this isn't healthy. We need to kind of talk this out, which can open the door for something very cathartic with the trines to Pluto at the end of September. So you'll have some time to kind of lean into this Venus in Virgo transit. Obviously, in the midst of it, we will see oppositions, to Neptune. And we will also see trines to the earth sign. So, the opposition to Neptune, this was kind of talked about in my monthly, but we just want to be more mindful at the end of the month that there's going to be some kind of fogginess or something that's a little bit unclear. But for right now, notice the shift when that happens on the 4th going into the 5th. I'm especially liking, actually, on the 5th, that the moon in Capricorn, very early in the day, will start, trining. Might even be the day before. Yeah, it'll be the 4th in the evening. We'll start coming into a trine with Venus. So that's nice. I like that. And then as we get into the 5th, the moon in Capricorn is going to start building into a trine with the sun. So when we see the sun and the moon working together, great day, great busy day on tap. That'll be Monday the 5th. Taking care of business is really the vibe that I'm getting with the moon in Capricorn, trying the North Node, aligning actions and also commitment, and emotionally ready to make some changes and get some things done. Really interesting that happens right as Venus is moving into Virgo. If you've got stuff that you need to get done, get organized, you want to be doing this at the beginning of the week. So kick it off on Monday by actually showing up to work, be adamant about staying on task, all of that fun stuff. This same day, we're also going to see that Jupiter in its ingress into Capricorn is also going to come into a bit of a square with Jupiter. So very early here on the West Coast on the 5th in the morning, but still you might feel that square throughout the day. With the moon in Capricorn in a square to Jupiter, it can be big feelings, but it's also going to be in a square to Mercury. So it's a lot of like, oh, you think this? Well, I think that. Okay. And then emotional processing. Moon square Mercury, not the easiest day to communicate, but I think with the moon in a trine to the sun, the willingness to show up and actually get something done or make sense of something and, try to hash it out is not entirely too bad. So yeah, I'm still a fan of Monday. We get into Tuesday the 6th, and this is going to be when the moon comes into conjunction with Pluto. So you'll see this happening throughout the day. Moon gets very close to Pluto. The only real positive thing that we have kind of going on here is that we have the sextile to Neptune. But Moon Pluto is a sense of like, things bubbling over, boiling over, how we feel with intent in our connections to other people, especially on the home front. There can just be more moodiness and more tension kind of going on. Keep in mind, Mercury is still in shadow, so I think that is part of it, and maybe we're just more aware of like what needs to be changing on an emotional level, where there's some uncomfortability with like letting things go. On the world stage globally, like Moon Pluto days, or days where there's tension with government, we hear more about what's going on with financial matters, with power structures and authority figures and all of that stuff. Thankfully, later in the day, the moon in the evening will cross into Aquarius, so we get a little bit of like a reprieve there. And then that's going to take us into the 7th. Now, when we get into the morning of the 7th, another interesting day, we have got the Sun trine Uranus and North Node. So first the Sun's going to trine the North Node, getting on the path, showing up, doing the work, committing to the routine, so we see the physical changes, right? Then we're going to see over the next couple of days, the Sun will build into that trine. But the moon is in Aquarius, so it's a nice day prior to the moon coming into conjunction with Saturn. So I also like Wednesday the 7th. There is an air trine, a grand air trine that is happening while Mercury is stationing, and you don't want to miss this day, because the moon in Aquarius needs its freedom, it needs time with its friends, or it needs to be thinking about goals or wish fulfillment. And the moon will trine Mercury stationing, so there is an opportunity to communicate with partners, talk about our goals, reconnect with friends. And we're also going to see the moon in a trine to Mars. So this is that Earth trine. Let me pull out my handy dandy marker again. So we've got the moon here, Mercury here, Mars here. So we've got emotionally communicating and taking action when talking to other people, friends or relationships, about how we feel and our goals. The 7th is a wonderful day, I think, maybe to like share with other people like what you're working on, or like what you're working out, or like where you're motivated. Working with the elements of air, incense, chanting, chimes, writing things down. Mercury is getting really strong, so you guys want to be burning like your orange candles, working with Mercury, asking for assistance. It is a mercurial day because Wednesday is ruled by Mercury. And I get the vibe that if you have the time to connect with Mercury, you might actually score like a really significant email, text message, a conversation with someone that's going to kind of help you kind of keep the faith, because we've also got the moon that's in a sextile to Jupiter. So great day for just sharing, but you got to pick up the phone, respond to the text message, initiate the conversation, set the meeting, something like that, okay? And it's physically showing up. We got to physically show up. With the Sun trine the North Node, we got to clean up, we got to organize, we got to make sense of things, we got to sort and sift. Like I've been saving a lot of my things until this week. I'm like, okay, that's the week that I'm like going back to the gym. That's the week that I'm organizing the cupboards. That's the week that I'm cleaning out the closets, because I knew that with these trines, I was going to see through a mindset shift that there would also be physical changes, okay? And change is never easy, guys, especially when we're dealing with what has been some rather, absolutely absurd astrology in 2022. The grand fixed squares have been a lot. When we get to later in the day, okay, so this is earlier in the morning. When we get to later in the day, it doesn't become as pleasant, unfortunately. And this is going to be going into the evening and then even the early AM hours on the 8th. This is when we see the moon come into a square with her own nodes. So moon is at 16. That's squaring the nodes. And that makes people a little moody, a little temperamental, a little sensitive. And then also late in the evening, the moon will square Uranus. So thankfully, at least for those of us that are here, in the States, a lot of this is going to be happening while we're sleeping. So we're going to kind of get a little bit of a reprieve. But if you happen to live somewhere where that's not the case, you've been forewarned. Moon square the nodes, moon conjunct Saturn, that emotional kind of hardening. And then the moon square Uranus is just, we're seeing emotional breakdown. We're seeing moon Saturn, us finding out that there's more collective limitation. There's more challenges when it comes to networking, to groups. I've been watching this square, and I've noticed that when the moon is conjunct Saturn in Aquarius, or it's in Leo in opposition, it's been internet outages. It's been electrical issues, power outages, slowing of speeds, things that are getting choked, right, from our ability to connect, Aquarius. So you might notice that as well. So just pay attention to that. And if you're trying to do anything that's like getting the gang together, you know, on Wednesday night, I'm not so wild about it. Try to get as much stuff done earlier in the day as you can. Make the most of those trines. Then we've got on the 8th, so let's move to the 8th. Moon conjunct Saturn in Aquarius, so that conjunction's happening early in the morning. But after the conjunction, then we don't really have any other major aspects after that. It's not going to square the nodes, not going to square Uranus. And then on the 9th, we've got Mercury is stationing. So this is actually when the Mercury retrograde is getting ready to begin. What's interesting is Moon goes into Pisces. We're also in preparation, getting ready to come into that full moon that we're going to be having. But Mercury's stationing, and it's stationing while it's in a slight trine to Mars. Let's pull this up. Mercury in an 8, deep, intense. It's about where we're shining a light on fears or secrets, especially in relationships. And with the trine to Mars here, it's also kind of saying like, you know, talk about it. When in doubt, talk about it. I've said this to you guys all year long. All the Mercury retrogrades have been in air signs. We started the year with one in Aquarius that was conjunct Saturn. We had another one over the summer that was in Gemini, that was also in a trine to Saturn. And now we have the final one for 2022, and that's going to be in Libra. And, you know, Libra season's going to be pretty decent. Mid-October, we're going to realize like there is a way to be able to be very much more clear on our goals and be able to find more harmony in friendships or relationships as long as we're just kind of getting out with it, right? Saying what we need to say. But when a planet's stationing, it's very powerful. So you might notice like the communication glitches, the breakdown, all of that stuff. Probably on the 9th, although it can take a little bit longer for some of you guys to really feel that totally shake out. Mercury trine Mars is like if you have a feeling about something, if you feel the need to take action, know that Mercury will retrograde. So you're going to be revisioning, reworking, rethinking, reviewing all of this stuff. And I'm anticipating that you're probably all going to feel a little bit more when the moon is in Aries later in the week and it's opposing Mercury. So I'm guessing it's going to be, you know, closer to right around the 11th when the moon and Jupiter are conjunct here. And it's opposing Mercury retrograde in Libra. Why do I say that? The moon is the trigger. People don't realize the moon moves faster than any other planet, so it's changing signs every 2.5 days. So likely we don't just look at one planet square a planet or conjunct a planet. Usually we see triggers from the moon. So if you're like, when is the day that I'm really going to feel the retrograde? Probably on the 11th. The good news is that moon Jupiter is pretty positive. Moon in Aries is spicy. It needs its own kind of freedom. It'll sextile Mars, so we're all feeling like a little bit more willing to kind of improve and be more active. And it's going to oppose Mercury, which means if we make an error, if we make a mistake, likely somebody's going to be like, you know, I'm there for you, or hey, I caught this error, or, you know, what do you need? There's going to be tons of counselors, therapists, readers, healers, partners who are there to give us feedback. We are humans. We are not perfect. And that's part of what we learn in the midst of Virgo season and also Venus in Virgo. And I think that this is a week to really, you know, practice being humble and knowing when we don't have the answer, or we're not at our end goal, or we're not as perfect as we hoped that we could be. But we know that acknowledging that and asking for assistance or help is kind of like the missing puzzle piece, right? At least in my opinion, it is. I want to take you guys back really quick to the 10th also, because the 10th is when we're going to have that full moon in Pisces. Now, I did a separate video on that because I really wanted to dedicate more of this to the Venus in Virgo, but we do have early in the morning on the 10th, a Pisces full moon, 17 degrees. Check out that video that I did on that. Pretty mystical and magical, especially with Mercury turning retrograde. You know, this is a sign, Pisces, that's ruled both by Neptune, but also by Jupiter. So we've got a full moon hosted by a moon, you know, Neptune conjunction with a square to Mars, our dreams matching up with our actions. And then we've also got this with a Jupiter retrograde in opposition to Mercury retrograde, where we're learning a lot about ourselves through relationship with other people. That's going to be the theme for the next month in general. We're all walking around with a bunch of mirrors, basically, seeing what other people are projecting back at us, and those versions of us in other people that we recognize that we may not like, but we also might kind of glob onto. Definitely lots of room for hearing from people from the past now that Mercury is retrograde in a mercurial sign. But it's not just that. Excuse me, in a Venus sign, it's not just that, it's that Venus is in a Mercury sign. Virgo season, Venus in Virgo, Venus, it's behind Mercury. Mercury is what rules, you know, this sign. So a lot of people are like, oh my God, is the grass greener? Or, oh my God, I'm freaking out, you know, like this isn't working. I need my fix. Like, let me call that one person who just always made me feel better. And for some of us, that's an acupuncturist, it's a doctor, it's, you know, it's our favorite beautician, it's our favorite bartender. Let me just go back to that person because they really know me. They know how to make me feel better. You know, they're going to give me exactly what I need. But in a relationship sense, I think there is a lot of reminiscing. I would say be very careful with getting too stuck in this area. And romanticizing things and looking at like things like the grass could be greener, because we're going to see a lot of people that are like, I'm not happy in my relationship. Let me see what so-and-so is doing. Let me check up on that person. And I think with the squares to Mars it's really saying to me that there are two paths. That's what I love about Mercury energy, whether it's Virgo or Gemini. It's like, it could go this way or it could go that way. You know, it's like, it's pick a pill. Which direction do you want to go in, kind of like in the Matrix. And we have free will. So the future is not defined. In many ways, where we're at right now for a lot of people in these squares is a turning point. That if something's really not working in your life, if you're really getting sick and tired of your relationship or your job or your shit, you can kind of look at things and go, what if I chose a different path? I've brought this up a couple times. Like, I often kind of think about life very similar to that movie, Sliding Doors. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's like, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow and like what it would have been like had she made the train versus missing the train. And if she makes the train, she goes to work, and then she ends up like finding out that she's fired and everything kind of falls apart. She misses the train, she goes back home, catches her husband cheating, right? And has these two very different, I think it was her boyfriend, two very different lives. But in the end, they do come together, and whether it was one version where she found out that her partner was cheating and she met another guy, or it was the long version where she never found out, but it ended up breaking up and she met the guy on an elevator, the universe will reroute you. So even if you're being shown an alternate path throughout this next week or two, the universe will reroute you. So right now it's just time to stay open and start noticing, like, what can I fix within myself? Like, how can I stay in my own lane? What can I fix without reaching for the vice? And like, how can I get down to the bare essentials and the bare necessities with my schedule, with my health, with what I'm doing, without reaching for other people to pacify some of my desires? How can I turn that energy on kind of cleaning things up and clearing things up for myself, rather than being the person that's like skipping to the next habit, overlooking, you know, red flags in a relationship, or going relationship to relationship, having the same problems. Virgo energy says, like, get on with it. Roll up your sleeves, even if you're going to get a little dirty, and like get down there and scrub the grout, right? So in all of our lives right now, wherever Virgo is and wherever Gemini is, we're being pressured to really talk about what's not working, what isn't perfect, what doesn't feel good, what isn't pleasurable. And I think that that's the medicine of Virgo, that it really helps us realize what true service, love, relationship, sacrifice means. And if we're willing to have these honest conversations with ourselves or with other people throughout this transit, I think that once Venus is coming into a trine with the North Node right around the 16th of September, and then Uranus, we see physical changes. Things are going to change. We're going to be able to finally start kind of saying, hey, cool, now that we're on like a even playing field and we have a clean slate and we've both talked about what's not working and what's out of whack and what's out of balance, I'm doing this, you're doing that, then we're going to come back and meet in the middle, and we can be, I think, finding that our relationships are having more peace, they're having more harmony, there is more clarity, but also we're finally breaking down patterns that we've needed to break down in regards to relationships, our finances, or our health in general, okay? So that's kind of the week at a glance for you guys. I just want to take you through this and let you guys each know where this Venus transit is going to be. So this is going to be for Aries and Aries rising. So Venus is moving through your 6th house. So for everybody who's listening, I guess I got a little ahead of myself. I'm a Western astrologer. I practice whole sign predictions. Listen for your rising sign if you want to know where this is taking place in your life. Listen to your sun sign if you want to listen to how it's affecting you, your happiness, your career, your goals, and listen to your moon sign for how it relates to you emotionally. And I was going to say something else, but now I forget. Okay, so for Aries and Aries rising, you have Venus going through your 6th house. What is the 6th house? It is your office space. It is your dentist's office. It is your gym, your laundromat, right? So think that Venus, the goddess of love, relationship, harmony, the Lord of your 7th house of partnerships, the Lord of your 2nd house of money, of ownership, property, and self-esteem, is moving through the 6th. So what does this mean for you? You are finding pleasure, right, in your 6th house things. Perhaps, maybe, you like being of service, and there is a sense of you wanting to take it upon yourself to go to the grocery store and cook a meal for your partner, right? And you're thinking more about your physical routine, your health, your wellness. Maybe you are opting to say, hey, I want to feel better in my skin. I'm going to find a gym. Maybe I'm going to talk to a trainer. Maybe I'm going to go with my partner, right? That kind of stuff, because Venus is moving through your 6th house. You may also find that you are investing more in like kitchen tools. It can be like jewelry stuff. You might benefit by, hiring a trainer or like somebody who can come in and clean or can organize. Maybe if you have a pet that needs to be trained, this can be a nice transit to do it because the 6th house deals with pets. Just know that partners can be a little bit more secluded. They may need a little bit more privacy than usual because this is 12th house to your 7th. They can also be much more critical about, I don't like the way this was folded. You didn't, put this back the way that you should. I don't know, it needs more seasoning. Like there's going to be something like that. So just know that Venus can be definitely a little bit more critical when it's moving through this part of your chart. But I'm very interested to see how these planets trine and make aspects for you to the North Node and also Uranus, where it's like you're developing talent. So maybe your partner says, this is the appropriate way to like do a squat, or a trainer tells you that. Or this is how you, appropriately fold a shirt or organize your closet. So you'll learn something from somebody in the midst of this transit. And as Venus is going through here, there is a need to perfect something about possibly even your money and how you're spending money. And it can be really going through accounts, organizing things. And if you're looking for an accountant or if you're looking for somebody to kind of help you with the process of that, or maybe your partner offers to do that with you, that can be very pleasurable. That's the word that we want to use here. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful for you, Aries. Taurus and Taurus rising. So you're ruled by Venus, okay? So you and Libra, you guys are going to be the ones that are going to feel this a little bit more strongly, okay? So you've got Venus going through your 5th house in a fellow sister sign. So off the bat, that's positive. You know, Venus being 5 houses from your sun or your ascendant is quite lovely. The 5th house deals with romance. It deals with dating, inspiration, creativity, anything in regards to playtime and having fun. Kind of funny, right? That it's on the sign, in the sign of Virgo, which doesn't always associate with those things, but the sun is there as well. What does this mean? This tells me that because Venus has associations with your body and also with yourself, you can be an archetype of Venus, and also your 6th house, which is about routine and also health and fitness. You are finding fun ways to get your exercise on and to change and transform your body. You may also find that if you have children, spending time and creating time in your schedule for playtime with your children is important. You finding time for playtime or inspiration or creativity is important. If you are a single Taurus, then, you know, going out for drinks with coworkers, I say that because it's Virgo, can definitely bring some romance in. Taking risks or taking chances in love is very possible here. I think that there's no guarantee. Like the 5th house is having sex for pleasure. So it can be that there is an opportunity to kind of meet people, but I think with like Mercury going retrograde, I would say like avoid office romances, be very careful here. That can definitely happen and you could be like, never mind, I'm not interested. Those of you guys who are partnered, because Libra rules your 6th associated with Venus, this can also be a time where you're saying to your partner, we need to get on a routine. Like, let's spice things up. Let's you know, get orderly about, you know, having a routine date night, right? We've been working a lot, 6th house Lord. Let's find something fun to do. Let's do something together. It can be kind of crafty because the 6th house can be crafty. It can be playing games. It's almost like, you know, have a nice romantic game of chess. Maybe that's something that you guys can do together. And you're feeling a little bit more open to love, and maybe you're just seeking a little bit more one-on-one time with another person and wanting to have more pleasure time within the home. Know that Taurus, there will also be a Mercury retrograde here. So there's a lot of emphasis on your 5th house. So whether it's returning to dating, getting back into a routine where you're having more kind of fun, if you are trying to get pregnant, if there is a potential energy in regards to pregnancy, you're trying to conceive, that comes up a lot too with both the Sun and Venus being in your 6th house. Now it is possible that it's about making that time, or even a partner talking to you about like the schedule and health relating to fertility. That's another way that that can play out for you, okay? Good luck, Taurus. Like I said, you're gonna feel that, so pay attention. We've got now Gemini and Gemini rising. How's it going, Gemini? So you got Venus going through Virgo, another mutable sign. So the mutable signs, obviously Gemini, Virgo, Sag, Pisces. You guys are going to feel this pretty strongly because of the ingress. It'll create a square. Gemini, Venus rules your 12th house of unseen situations. The North Node's in this part of your chart. Uranus is in this part of your chart. So you're kind of like used to curveballs at this point. Venus is going through your 4th house now. And I like Venus for it's beautifying the home. It's having family relatives sometimes come visit. Sometimes it's about finding property. Sometimes it's about planting a garden. It just kind of depends. Venus rules your 5th house of love, creativity, and children, and it also rules your 12th house. So I'm wondering, if you have children, are you looking to create more space in your home for a child, right? Is that happening because you've got a Mercury retrograde from the 5th into the 4th? Is there news that there is a child, so you need to expand your family and therefore your home? Are you thinking about moving in with a romantic partner, right? Any of these things can be happening, Gemini. Some tension here, obviously, because you've got planets moving through Virgo, squaring Mars on your ascendant. So you're feeling a little passionate, a little aggressive. This can be good passion, though. You can be feeling more like you want to take charge. But I think that it's a little uncomfortable, to be honest with you, because Mars in your sign squaring Venus is indicating that there's some tension and discord of not feeling like you have enough space in your home. Whether you're like, I need an office, like my kids' stuff is everywhere, or I'm living and working in a studio, I need more space. But Venus coming into your fourth definitely makes me feel like there can be more private time, space, harmony. You know, add some flowers, change the ambiance a little bit, change the lighting, put in some aromatherapy in the house. Like Venus in Virgo wants it to be practical, so it doesn't want you to break the bank. And it wants it to be natural. So bringing in the earth element, the crystals, the plants, things like that can actually bring more harmony. It can open a space up. It can be a wonderful time if you like where you're living also, that you bring somebody in to help you kind of declutter and simplify, you know, and it can be a great time to just add like some natural touches in your home. But if you're looking for a office or something, you might be craving that, feeling like you need to kind of create that in your home, or a creative space as well. Now, women or family members can visit, especially women from a foreign land, 12th house lord, or you may be finding that there is like this theme of thinking over relationships or love from the past, and also like where you're living, so you can run into people from the past as well. So keep that in mind, especially with a retrograde from your fifth into your fourth. You're rethinking your love life, dating, what you love, what you're participating in, what your hobbies are. But it can also be stuff relating to children. So take that into consideration, Gemini. Good luck. Now we've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You have got Venus in Virgo moving through your third house. So obviously, like we've said, Venus brings pleasure. She wants to harmonize, unify, bring things together. Venus rules your 11th house of goals and friendships, your 4th house of home and family, and she's being hosted by Virgo in your third. So I'm wondering, is there some sense of reconnecting through the Mercury retrograde, possibly with family, via phone, text, email, via a sibling or a family member or a relative that wants to help create this reconciliation? Maybe. Could be like a sister that gets on the phone, Venus, or an aunt that's like, why aren't you talking to your mom? Like, what's going on? Like, let's have dinner, come over, let's talk about it, type of thing. Venus also is connected to your 11th house, so it's also friends. So you might be communicating and talking to friends, or like I said, siblings, family members, about some kind of financial situation maybe. It can also be about like a home situation and like movement. Maybe you've got friends that are saying, hey, come visit, or if you're in between living places, come stay with me, or I'm traveling, can I visit you? The third house is a very busy house, so it is possible that you have friends that are like, hey, I'm in town, you know, can I come by? Or if you're mobile, you may do that as well. Now, because Venus rules the 4th house and Mercury's retrograding through here, I'm wondering, like, is it about you thinking about relocating, making a change in your living situation, you know, realizing something about the neighborhood? Maybe you have friends that are telling you about a new space that's opening up. Maybe it's friends talking to you about some kind of a trip or going somewhere, taking a class or a workshop. That's the other way that this can pan out. But regardless, lots of activity in the 3rd and the 4th house. So whether you're reconnecting to family, thinking about moving, there can be lots of like rethinking or reworking also like a vehicle situation, because the 3rd house is vehicles and it's in a square to Mars, or transportation in some way. But I'm a fan of it. I think the trines to the North Node are nice. You've got, you know, friends that are going to be really supportive. The sextiles to your ascendant also are saying that being open, being emotional, being compassionate is allowing some of these conversations to flow. And if there's been some disharmony going on with family at all, you might be able to kind of reconcile that. Okay? Good luck, Cancer. And we've got Leo and Leo rising. So we have got Venus moving through your 2nd house. So that's not a bad transit. Venus and the Sun through the 2nd house does enhance earning potential. You know, you might bring in a higher salary. You might make a little bit more money. So this is really nice because there's definitely like an emphasis on spending power. Venus rules your 10th house of career, and the North Node and Uranus have been going through there. So there's been lots of changes and innovations at work, changes in business partners, changes in marital partners or relationships, shifts that are going on, maybe with bosses or just what you're doing for a living. Likely during this transit of Venus through Virgo, you're going to start to really see it pay off. You're going to be like, okay, it's a good thing I made that shift. Or, now I'm making more money, or now I have more pleasure in how I'm working and making money. There's something about this here. I think that because Venus also is the ruler of your 3rd house, that the 3rd and the 10th house lord being in the 2nd is somehow having conversations maybe at work about budgets. Or that there may be like evaluations coming at work, or that you might be up for a promotion depending on your performance review. Something of that nature can be happening here. Really feeling your self-esteem, right? Like feeling good about the work that you're doing, Virgo, and also just what you're getting out of it, and that really starting to kind of physically kind of come together. You might be reevaluating also a living situation based off of the money that you're making. So if you are in like a negotiation for a raise, that factors into like, well, do I need to get a contract during this Mercury retrograde? Do I need to get it in writing? What's more important, once I kind of get my budget set up? Is it more important for me to move or get a car, or I want to move or get a car and I need to reevaluate, my budget, something like that, because the retrograde will go from your 3rd to your 2nd. And I bring that up because it still has mercurial energy. Anyway, lots of opportunity to negotiate, feeling good in your skin, really kind of having more earning potential. I'm liking that it's going to trine the North Node. I feel like this is probably going to be one of your better earning periods in a while. But it can be that as a result of reorganizing something about your finances, how you think about finances, how you think about yourself, your self-esteem, building that up and not allowing yourself to give too much of that away to other people, which in turn can actually affect how much you value yourself. Okay? Good luck, Leo. Now we've got Virgo and Virgo rising. Boy, I bet you like this transit, Virgo. You got Venus in your sign, so take some pictures. Take some pictures, because Venus on your ascendant or Venus on your sun is definitely a time where there is more Venusian energy, right? And there can be like a real fresh haircut, crisp new, ironed clothes, just looking like 110%. And bringing more love and affection and attention your way. Now, the Mercury retrograde, right? It's going from your 2nd into your 1st. So likely you're kind of going, well, what do I value? Where's my self-esteem at? How much money do I have? What can I spend on new clothes or a new living situation? Or am I, loving myself enough? What tweaks and kind of changes? This Mercury retrograde, because Mercury rules your chart, it's very much about your body and your self-esteem and your money. But Venus kind of coming in makes me feel like there's going to be a turning point at the end of the month where you're going to be like, I am worth this, or I set myself back. I limit my ability to feel like I'm capable of getting the job, getting the girl, whatever. And you'll realize that right around the Cazimi, where there is a need for you to let go of any inhibition and anything that keeps you from other people, to be honest with you. But back to Venus. Venus is in your 1st house of the body. It rules your 2nd house of investments and also anything in regards to your spending power, your self-esteem. Venus also is associated with your 9th house, which is about travel and philosophy. I wonder if this is about like you adopting a new belief system about what you love and how you carry yourself and how you approach other people. I mean, love should be, your MO, whether that's loving yourself, loving the world, staying open to love, finding that you don't have to be perfect. And, Venus has a tendency when things are too perfect to not want it. People don't realize that. That's why Venus in Virgo can have like this very kind of like cookie cutter, everything's perfect, but you can't touch it type of energy. Venus rules art, right? And like art isn't perfect. That's what makes it so beautiful and so different. And I would say Virgo, being super hypercritical of yourself right now is not a good idea. Try to eat well, you know, gift yourself nice things that might enhance your appearance. Maybe it's a piece of jewelry, maybe it's that you're spending a little bit more money taking a class, a workshop, you're learning something. Maybe you're willing to invest a little bit of money on travel. Whatever it is, it's like you're changing your philosophy when it comes to self-care and like who you can be, even if that's just changing how you look. And in the midst of this transit, you're bringing more love and affection and appreciation your way. Keep working on that self-esteem. Realize that you're only going to be paid as much as you think that you're worth. Okay, so kind of bump that up a little bit, Virgo. For Venus based Libra, so similar to Taurus, you're going to feel this pretty strongly, Libra rising, right? Because Venus, you are Venus. Venus going through your 12th house. So Venus traditionally rules yourself and your body, and it also rules your 8th house of other people's money and transformation. A little uncomfortable for Libra risings. You have got your chart lord in the 12th where she wants to hide out. So I think between a Mercury retrograde that's starting in your 1st house and going to your 12th, you need more rest and more recuperation. So you're sleepy, you're tired. You might need to be healing something. So if you've been feeling under the weather, that's going on. You have a ton of planets that are moving through your 12th house. So it's just prior to your birthday. So there is like this karmic or cosmic clearing that's kind of happening as you go through these transits. Venus in the 12th is great for Venus offerings. So you think of like putting out flowers, milk and honey, bells, chimes, music, like really connecting and like making offerings to the goddess. It can also mean that you're doing this prior to bedtime. Now, Venus in the 12th house is great for bed pleasures, so there can definitely be more intimacy and sex and things behind the scenes, especially because Venus rules your 8th house. But Venus is not entirely thrilled being in this sign, and it makes me wonder if there is like some issues of like not feeling good enough or not feeling attractive enough, or being too critical and kind of hiding out and avoiding intimacy altogether, or not wanting to be seen, having Venus in the 12th. When Venus changes signs, right, you'll be feeling a little bit better. Venus crossing your ascendant and likely closer to mid-October when the Mercury retrograde is over. I would say spending time learning about mysticism, you know, the occult, anything in regards to sacred sex, tantra, kundalini can be really great right now. And it's going to take a little bit of time before you're kind of feeling back at it. Venus also being the ruler of the 8th house makes me wonder, with some of the trines ultimately that she'll come with Pluto, if there is like a female that needs to go and get some assistance, go to a hospital, go to a care center, get some help. It could be you know, you might be kind of feeling like, oh my God, this isn't perfect, that isn't perfect, you know, and these trines to Uranus in the North Node is like, I want to get plastic surgery, or I want to do this, or I want to, you know, go to this other country and like get a nose job. Like, be careful here. A lot of this stuff is going to be in a square to Mars, so be asking yourself, is that really what you want to do? And it'll be in an opposition to Neptune in your 6th house. Wait until these transits are over next month before you make anything. Know that you have a much more critical eye, and there is much more of a need to just rest and recuperate, and to not get too much in your own head, okay? Good luck, Libra. Scorpio and Scorpio rising, you have got Venus moving through the sign of Virgo. Venus rules your 12th house of foreign travel, hidden spaces, self-undoing, things you don't see. This is blind spot, Scorpio. And it also rules your 7th house of relationships. Oh, man. Scorpio. Let's start with the good news. The good news is that it is in a sextile to your sign, okay? And Scorpio is about change and transformation. So Venus, which rules other people, in a sextile to your ascendant, is giving you the opportunity to change and transform the way that you are in friendships and relationships. You've got a Mercury retrograde that is starting in the 12th house, and it's going into the 11th house. So this is all going to be about where you're hiding out, where you're not communicating with people, where you're not socializing, like where you're not talking to your friends, calling people back, whatever. And I think that you know, all of this coming into a trine with your 7th house is also going to be about finding ways to communicate and talk to your partner about socializing more. It might be prompted by your partner because Venus rules your 7th house of saying, hey, we need to get out and do something, or, you know, let's join a group, let's join an association, let's call your friends, let's go out to dinner, you know, these kinds of things. And the 11th house rules the love that other people give you, right? So being that you have the sun here and Venus is here and there's going to be a Mercury retrograde here, you might realize that there is love coming from groups and that your friends miss you, they want to connect with you, or they're, you know, talking about, you know, the good times that you guys had. The challenge that I have with this is that we are going to see that the sun and Venus and Mercury retrograde are all kind of hovering here. Now, traditionally, the 11th house is not just about friendships and networking, but it's 5th house from your 7th. So this can, for some of you guys who are in relationships that are not committed, be like this realization that somebody that you're kind of talking to or seeing is like interacting with other people. Or that they're getting attention online. You know, people could be sliding into your DMs here as well. Like maybe you're hearing from people from like a networking site or something like that. If you're in a relationship, it's a little bit more complex. If you're not in a committed relationship, I would say stay open. I think the Venus trine, the North Node in the 7th, is the more that you're socializing, hanging out with friends, networking, connecting with groups, even if it's just going out with coworkers, it is likely to lead to some chance encounters that can be really great for relationships. But Venus rules the 12th of what you do not see. Those of you guys who are partnered, you might hear that, you know, there's just kind of people from the past kind of returning, trying to connect in some way, or that can be happening for a partnership. The Venus in a square to Mars, which is your chart lord in the 8th, is also like bringing up your partner's resources, your partner's creativity, joint money, and romance or children. So you might also notice that there's like a bit of friction here going on in terms of like the goals that your partner might have in regards to creative projects, self-employment, or children, and the reality of like where things really are financially. So there can be some headbutting that's going on here as well, Scorpio, okay? So just keep an eye out for that. Realize that the Mercury retrograde in general, going from your 12th into your 11th, some tricky stuff. I mean, you got the sun going through here, you've got Jupiter here in your 6th house. Like I've said for Aries, when you're dealing with the 6th and the 12th house, you can kind of get lost in these houses. And there can be a sense of there being some secret relationship stuff going on, or some insecurities in relationship going on, which is also really impacting the ability to kind of come together. So Scorpio, you have to let me know how that works out. Keep me updated. We've got Sag and Sag rising. Hope you're doing well, Sag. We've got Venus that's entering into Virgo. Venus is on an angle. So similar to Virgo and Gemini, you're feeling the pressure because it's squaring your planets in Sag. It's also squaring Mars in your 7th house. Not terrible. You know, Venus going through the 10th house, you're going to have a lot more harmonious things going on at work. And working with women, if you work with women, or if you're in beauty, or if you're in anything in regards to like the fashion industry, or maybe if you're in anything in regards to the service industry, could be a very busy time with Venus going through your 10th house, just more kind of needing to, you know, take care of busy work, because Venus rules your 6th. Venus also rules your 11th, so goals. I'm wondering, like, are some of the things that are happening for you right now, Sag, are you reorganizing everything in regards to your career? Because you got a Mercury retrograde happening from Libra into your 10th. So maybe you're switching jobs, maybe you're bringing some of your, you know, new team members on, maybe you're friends with them, whatever. But Venus being here tells me that there is like a need to increase productivity at work, and that there can be a sense of just focusing on staying busy, staying on schedule, staying on task, and either beautifying or making the workspace like a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So if you're somebody who likes to decorate the office, if you like are really into the seasons and stuff, maybe you're bringing in flowers and you're doing all of that stuff, or creating an atmosphere that's just going to be like much more seasonal. There can also be much more of a sense of you just managing things as Venus goes through the 10th house, managing clients, schedules, staying on top of things. And there's just like a lot of busy work. Maybe you have a woman that comes in that helps you, an assistant or somebody who kind of helps you put things together and kind of get on track. Venus being associated with your 11th house, which is also about goals. I think it's interesting to see like Venus in a square with Mars, because it tells me there's a lot of work going on, but there's also like new relationships and partnerships who are showing up. That's pushing you. That's like, keep going, go farther, you know, get out of your comfort zone. Don't allow yourself to get too rigid or too comfortable in one area. So you've got somebody who's like really pushing you maybe to do more, which can be a business partner or a romantic relationship as well. I'm really curious to see what happens as Venus goes further into Virgo in the month that it's trining, you know, Pluto here in your second house can be wonderful for expanding a team, making more money, being more productive. Granted, you got to get through the Mercury retrograde, so there is some reorganization of work or money that's happening over the next month, really maybe seeing where if an expansion paid off or whether or not a job is really worth what you're getting paid, okay? Good luck, Sag. Now we've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. So we have got Venus in Virgo. It's in a sister sign. So we are actually seeing earth trines for you, Capricorn, because you're either a Capricorn rising or you've got a sun or a moon there. And the trines produce physical changes, okay? Physical changes. So Venus, which is associated with career, 10th house, and it's also associated with 5th house, relationships to creative projects, children, lovers, maybe even self-employment, I'm wondering, you know, or maybe it's giving you the opportunity to travel 9th house for work, but also have a little fun. If you're in the business of travel, publishing, teaching, something like that, great month on tap. I mean, I think your Lord of your 10th house in the 9th means that you're working with lawyers, teachers, travelers, you know, looking at your philosophy on life and on career. And as it's trining your North Node in the 5th, you're realizing that like there is something that you can do creative at work. You've got a Mercury retrograde from your 10th house to your 9th. So if you're like rethinking, do I want to go back to work? Do I take a break? Do I want to switch careers? Do I need to go back to school? Venus in the 9th is trying to find you something that you love. And if you're thinking about like going and taking a program or finishing a degree or working with a mentor or a teacher to kind of perfect some creative things that you're doing so that way you can segue in your career, that would make sense to me. 10th house is also responsibility. So I could see like, you know, Venus ruling that coming into a trine with the North Node is responsibility relating to, well, who watches the kids when we travel? Or, you know, are they ready to go back to school? Or do I, you know, need to be talking to teachers or counselors and touring campuses or talking to them about what they want to be when they grow up and helping them with their education plans? So that can be happening as well. I think it can be positive though. I think you might be very critical about their education plans and talking to them a lot about the experiences that you've had. So when it comes time to make decisions about where they go to school, what they're doing for a living, you're you know, just very kind of black and white and direct with them about some of that stuff. Venus in the 9th is a great time to take programs, to be working on stuff that you enjoy, be planning trips and going places. I'm especially liking like right when it's coming into a trine with the North Node. So if you can't be traveling in September, perhaps you're planning something and you're learning a little bit more about this, or you're kind of planning when you can take the time to do this when work is a little less hectic. Love can be found in travel or in courses, like, you know, like on the road or online and something like that. As a result of Venus going through the 9th house. So whether you're at an airport or if you're having to go to a seminar or something, take a look out because that can definitely be something that happens. All right, so now we've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. Hope you're doing well. We've got Venus that's moved into Virgo in your 8th house. Pretty sexy, huh? Venus rules the 4th house, which is home, family, roots, the past, and endings. It also rules the 9th house, which deals with law, legality, anything in regards to publishing, traveling. Oh boy, you got a retrograde from your 9th into your 8th. So that in itself makes me wonder, is there a reworking of something financially? Are you looking at tax documents? Are you dealing with an insurance claim? Are you dealing with an inheritance situation, especially with the sun being there and now Venus? So Venus rules for you, like I said, the 9th and the 4th. Now, some of you guys may decide to make a change in something about your joint resources, especially when it comes to within the home or the family. Perhaps maybe you and a partner are talking more about finding ways to save money, pay off debt, cut costs. It could also be that there's just a big change and a transformation going on with a partner's money or resources. There's some gains maybe coming up here. And with the trines to the 4th house, it's like, well, what do we do with this money? You know, what do we pay off? What do we owe? That kind of stuff. I'm curious with the Mercury retrograde because Mercury rules the 8th, and then you've got Venus and the Sun that keep moving, and they will eventually come into conjunction with Mercury. If there's going to be a document that is about an inheritance, about taxes, it's about uncovering some kind of information when it comes to another person. Now, if you're going through like a settlement or you're waiting for child support or spousal support, it could be that as well. I think that for the most part, though, you know, you've got Earth trine happening in water houses. So physical shifts, physical changes, financial changes, and it's how you feel about that. But this is going to be very physical for you, Aquarius. I know things have been a little dicey with, you know, Saturn that's been in your sign, and it's been in a square to the North Node and Uranus in the 4th. So lots of changes with your living situation, with having more independence, and maybe this is like that final piece of like really kind of seeing where the dust has settled and like now how things are for you financially, now that there's been some of these changes. Venus rules family as well, so family might be asking you for assistance. You might be offering to pay off a loan or a debt for somebody. And I think with the square to Mars, if it has to do with your children, it can be a little difficult when it comes to kind of settling some of those financial matters. Good luck. And last but not least, we have Pisces and Pisces rising. Okay, so we have Venus going through Virgo. Oops, a little wide there. Venus going through Virgo in your 7th house of relationships. Now, Venus is very comfortable in the 7th house, right? Because it's kind of similar to like a Venus in Libra energy or just 7th house Libra partnership. I mean, who doesn't like Venus through the 7th house? It's going to bring partners. It's going to bring more harmony. It's going to bring attractive people with Venus there. Now, Venus rules your 3rd house of communication, short distance trips, and also your 8th house of intimacy. Likely with the Sun and Venus moving through your 7th house, if you are a Pisces rising, a lot more emphasis on the partner right now. And they might be saying like, let's get away, you know, let's go on a short road trip, let's go somewhere, because this is all trining out through Uranus in the North Node in the 3rd. You're calling each other more, talking more, communicating. If you are partnered, maybe you're talking about moving or something in regards to movement. Venus will continue to move through Virgo, and Mercury will retrograde from Libra into the 7th. So there's something going on here about reevaluating relationships, what other people give you, what they bring you. We're watching Venus that will also come into a square with Mars. So you might be talking about like money and like living situations and arrangements and like where there needs to be changes. You've got Neptune in your sign here. And Venus will oppose this during her transit. And you want to pay attention because a partner can be like, are you with me? Are you there? Are you ready? You know, do you see me? Do you hear me? There can be much more neediness throughout this transit, especially when it comes to communication and being able to kind of clarify where are we going? What are we doing? What are we? What are you looking for? Because it has a very mercurial energy. But it's all to go deeper into intimacy. It's to bring more opportunities to kind of align with another person so you can really be talking about the bottom line of what your feelings are, what you're looking for in relationships, and it can really help you kind of grow stronger. Same with Gemini, Virgo, and Sag, because you're a mutable sign, you are seeing this create squares. So really the focal point is actually going to be Mars. So where the frustration in the home or the challenges on the domestic front are actually teaching you how to work better with other people. And that can also be friction coming from other people as well. Or if you have some family strife or something going on like that, like where you sit down and you tell a partner what's going on, they're like, okay, let me help you. And especially when it comes to your living situation. So if you're thinking about making a change in your living situation, or you're living with family and you want out, or you're frustrated with a financial situation at home with the family, they might say, well, like, why don't we talk about living together? Or like, how can I help you? So stay open to that. I think a lot of this is learning how to diffuse kind of the conflict energy, learning to open up more to Venus and the sun, and also Mercury in your 7th house, where people can have practical kind of solutions and be open to kind of helping you organize that a little bit better. You're going to be experiencing change on the home front and in the relationships. And I think right now it's about clearing out the past, Mercury retrograde in your 7th, clearing out the past in regards to your upbringing, your family, and opening up more to divine harmony and union. Okay? So that's Venus transit through Virgo for the 12 houses. Let me know, where is this happening for you guys? How are you feeling with these transits? Are you seeing some of this stuff transpire? We'll be talking about this more as the transit, continues in the weeks ahead, especially as we start seeing Venus coming into a trine, both with the North Node, which is going to be more so like next week, and then when we start seeing Venus coming into a trine with Pluto, which is going to be towards the end of the month. But just know that this is going to unfold really the whole month of September. How do we find true union, things that are not superficial, when things get challenging, when things get tough, when we don't feel our best? What relationships can we rely on, and how can we better things for ourselves so we can find more balance? Okay? As always, you guys like my content. I appreciate it. Sharing is caring. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. We've seen so much growth and interaction in the channel. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for that. It is a total labor of love to keep this going. Obviously, you're watching this on Sunday, but if you like my content, I'm putting out videos every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, and on Saturdays, we have live readings. So we alternate weeks. This week, we're going to be doing 7:00 p.m. Pacific on Saturday, live astrology readings on the channel. I post the link a day or two prior, so if you want to sign up and you want to get a mini reading from me, you can. It's all donation-based, and it goes towards continuing to create content for the channel. If you like my style of reading, you want to book a reading with me, check out my links below. You can find me at beyondtheveiltarot.com. I have full and half-hour sessions available, a whole list of different things that you can kind of choose from, whether you want just a transit reading, a solar return, relationship compatibility, you name it, I do it. And if you like my style and you want to learn how to read tarot or astrology, check out my links below. You can study with me. I have astrology courses that are now live. My whole Astrology 101 program is for sale, as well as my Tarot 101. I'm excited with all these Venus-Mars aspects coming up. I've got a mini series that I'm going to be teaching on Saturdays this month, starting on the 18th, on the relationship, of astrology and you and me. We're going to talk about synastry. We're going to talk about composites, how to kind of look for compatibility in astrology charts. It's just like a mini course to give you an introduction to kind of see like what does and does not work in relationship, and some timing and prediction techniques for relationships as well. And if you want to see more of my content, check out the Midheaven podcast, which I do with Mike the Peace Dealer. We've got a new video coming out every Monday. It's fun. It's cool. It's a little less kind of studious as the stuff that I put out here, but nevertheless, the world's kind of a crazy place right now. We could all use a laugh. So if you want to check that out, please do. Otherwise, I will be back on Tuesday. You guys enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.